industry leaders, distinguished guests, respected faculty, and my dear friends. I, Umang,
And I, Samir,
on behalf of entire SPJIMR family, extend a very warm welcome to each one of you to Samavesh. Samavesh is an annual conclave organized by the students of PGPM. It is a platform where eminent thought leaders from industry and academia collaborate to discuss, contemplate, debate, and seek solutions on contemporary issues pertaining to consulting, operations, information management, finance, marketing, and startups.
I now take this opportunity to welcome our esteemed guests and panelists for today. On our list of reputed dignitaries, we have with us Mr. D.K. Venkatesh, Global Delivery Head for Insurance at Virtusa Polaris. I would request Sakshi to welcome Mr. D.K. Venkatesh with flowers. Sir, we would request you to please join us on the dais. You can go back.
Mr. K. Sridhar, Vice President Geo Money at Reliance Jio Infocom Limited. I would request Shantanu to welcome Mr. K. Sridhar with flowers.
Mr. Milind Tasgaonkar, Head of the Cloud Business and Alliances at NetApp.
Mr. Prasad Rautre, Vice President and Business Head at Bharti Airtel Limited.
Mr. Satyen Jadeja, Industry Leader and Associate Director for Analytics at IBM.
We would also like to welcome our respected faculty members, Dr. Anil Vaidya, Head for Information Management at SPJIMR. Professor Oscar D'Souza, Professor for Information Management at SPJIMR. We thank you all for gracing the occasion with your presence. Before we proceed, a request from the audience to please put your mobiles on silent mode.
SPJIN Institute of Management and Research, a constituent unit of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, was established in 1981. Since its inception, influencing practice and promoting value-based growth have been our philosophical pillars for educational pedagogy and development. These foundations have enabled us to emerge amongst the top business schools in the country, and we aspire to eventually emerge as India's best management institution. The postgraduate program in management is an AICTE-approved program having a one-year full-time residential component. This is preceded by a 3-month off-campus web learning component. It is designed to accelerate the careers of our participants by leveraging on their robust experience. The program reinforces our functional capabilities and develops cross-functional skills so that we can assume larger responsibilities in industry. The program also carries an accreditation from AMBA UK.
We at SPJIMR believe that industry needs competent resources at lateral levels to take care of both scale and differentiation. The USP of the program lies in enhancing the functional and managerial capabilities of the participants, thus grooming them to become well-rounded professionals who are ready to take up leadership positions. Relevance to business is the focal point in the entire program design and flow. Leveraging on the state-of-the-art curriculum, instructors who are able to connect theory and practice, and a wide selection of electives, this program is a perfect platform to expedite your career to the next level.
Our 12th batch has distinctive characteristics that lend immense depth, breadth, expertise, and potential that can serve as the backbone to growth imperatives of recruiting organizations. With nearly 150 participants having an average age of 29 years and an average work experience of 7 years, we come from over 170 different companies spanning 12 sectors across the globe in various functions such as technology, sales and marketing, finance, operations, supply chain, services, information management, and consulting. This inherent diversity bears benefit of rich peer learning in the classroom and makes the discussions stimulating and insightful. We now have a video on Samavesh.
Our batch consists of participants from distinct backgrounds, and we would like to show the diversity of the batch in terms of industries, interests, and creativity by airing a short video.
I'm Latika. I'm Kavita.
I'm Captain. Sorry. My name is Prakhar Kulsky.
I'm Puno Karthik. I have 20 years of work experience in textile industry.
I was a Teach for India fellow. I taught in a school at Dharavi.
I have more than 10 years of experience in Ministry of Defense.
I got 6 years of banking experience.
6 years of experience on wireless technologies. I also own a patent on fluency technology.
Worked in Merchant Navy for 5 years and as a marine engineer on cargo ships. I've traveled across 30 countries in the world and I've worked with people belonging to 7 different nationalities. And this is the cultural diversification that I bring to the table at SPJIMR.
I am creative at heart and I would like to use this creativity to bring out unique business solutions to the team.
An experience of flying small aircrafts.
We are a group of entrepreneurs and we are very much passionate about our new venture, Foodico.
SPJIMR gave us a platform to launch our first early morning breakfast delivery startup, Foodico.
Along with my full-time job, I have been involved with one of the NGOs working for the upliftment of underprivileged communities. I have been involved with them for more than a decade now, right from ground level to managerial activities.
At speed, businesses can no longer afford to grow traditionally. The speed of innovation has outpaced transition and businesses are forced to either reinvent or perish. The spotlight is back on IT with disruptive technologies. It's no longer just an enabler to a core business strategy. In fact, it is the driver. Machine learning, robotics, cognitive computing, device mesh, SMAC, and Internet of Everything have redefined the business paradigm, and they present us with opportunities as well as challenges. While there is endless potential for these technologies to transform our lives, their impact on businesses can only be imagined. Businesses have to continuously evolve in line with these emerging trends and in technologies. It's time to think agile. It's time for transformation. It's time to reimagine businesses the information technology way.
The agenda for today's conclave is as follows. We begin with the expert speak from our guests. This will be followed by a panel discussion moderated by Professor Oscar D'Souza. Finally, we will have a question and answer round. We would now like to call upon Dr. Anil Vaidya, who is Head for Information Management at SPJIMR. Dr. Vaidya has been highly recognized and rewarded by industry for his role as an IT practitioner. He has been in CIO roles for multinational companies for the past 3 decades. He is a strong believer of global management education, having completed his master's degree from the United States and doctorate from the United Kingdom. May I now request Dr. Anil Vaidya to kickstart the event and set the pace for today's Information Management Conclave.
Guys, good afternoon, everybody. People are awake, right? No, I think this is a great event. We are here together. At the outset, I must welcome our expert panels here. And especially because you have spent your Saturday afternoon over here. That's wonderful. We really thank you for that. And of course, welcome for Prashun Datta. He is from Tata Power, used to work for Tata Power. And obviously my colleague Sunil, Ashish, our alumni, and all of you guys. Thanks so much. We have a great time here today. Reimagining the business, a very different way of looking at things. And look at the way it's the information technology way. What is information technology? Are we talking about computers? The big screen that we used to look at? Or is it today that information comes from technology, but also drives technology? Right? So today the definition of IT should be changing, and should be changing substantially. We need to look at that very carefully. And 40 years ago, I started my work on unit record machines. And at that point of time, people said, hey, you got to do something more. So I started looking for autocoder. I said, autocoder also is out. Look for COBOL. Started working for COBOL. 10 years later, somebody told me COBOL is going to be dead. COBOL is active even today, right? Still alive. It's really surprising. No technology almost dies in our world. A few years ago, we started talking about SMAC. And SMAC was a keyword for everybody. I remember Dr. Shrikant asking me, hey, why don't you run a course on cloud technology, cloud computing? We did launch a course. Cloud technology, SMAC, those words have been pretty active, and when they're active, you remember that then we brought in digital. I guess IBM and many other people, we talk about digital space nowadays. But nowadays also there's analytics as a separate one. But a whole lot of things have been happening in this space. But look at the changes. Last year at CMU, Carnegie Mellon University, they showed us a video of heart surgery being done using a snake robot. The guy who had created that robot was the guy who was speaking to us. The difference is, now the surgery can be done by cardiologists. What happens to the surgeons? So the whole operating theater people, they are going to change. Look at the automation in the shop floor of automobile industry. In fact, the way automobile industry today does is completely different. 3D printing. People are already talking about 4D printing now. I don't know where we are going in terms of changing the shop floor of the companies. The reimagined business is something that we really have to think of. It was very interesting to see a little article which says that, look, business in application development, many of you have done this work in the past. And we always started with logic, rational, things like that, and then went to data finally. Now they are saying that take a look at data first. Cognitive computing is saying take a look at data. Logic comes later. It's a very different paradigm shift that you are talking about. Now, if these kind of things are going to be around, we really have to see how the business is going to be working tomorrow. In fact, there's an interesting paper that I've recently completed. And partly, I guess our friend from Airtel will also tell me about it. We have payment companies coming up. They are there actually, looking at the wallets. And if you remember, they also have the e-commerce nowadays. Paytm is a nice example. On the other side, the banks have the wallets and they have the traditional business. But the Paytm, for example, has a payment bank also. But not to be left behind, telecom companies also in the same area. They have the wallets, they have the payment bank license also. Some of them have gone ahead, done that, and e-commerce. Now, if you look at it, everybody is doing everything. Is it going to continue like that? That's a little bit of question. My feeling, my personal opinion, the payment companies and banks will converge. The telecom will do on their core business. That's what they will do. That's my feeling. You could come back and say, no, nothing wrong. But at the same time, banks will go back to their core business and stop doing the e-commerce and things of that nature. My understanding. In a way, the things are going to change, and they change completely. The cognitive computing, they talked about cognitive computing, the robotics. I gave examples of robotics happening in think of BPO. The robotic process automation is part of the BPO business now, part of the call center business. Things have changed there. Robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, things of that nature, the cognitive computing, things of tomorrow. We don't talk about SMAC anymore, do we? Very rare. SMAC is something that nobody talks about. Nobody talks about these things. So we are going to talk about these 4 things later. My feeling, as of tomorrow, we need to do something different. And my thought, it's going to be technovate your company. Technology and innovation. Unless we do that, there is no way we are going to be looking at a different kind of business tomorrow. So when you say technovate business, I'm saying technovate today, or your challenge for tomorrow. Thank guys.
Thank you, sir, for your thought-provoking address that has definitely set the right tempo for the conclave.
Our first speaker for today is Mr. D.K. Venkatesh, Global Delivery Head for Insurance at Virtusa Polaris. Mr. Venkatesh has over 25 years of experience in delivering complex SI programs and in managing large applications in various technologies for multiple Fortune 500 companies. He has a rich experience in global delivery management, building great client relationships at CXO level, and leading and delivering on large portfolios. Prior to joining Virtusa Polaris, Mr. Venkatesh has worked with Accenture, Hewlett-Packard, Emphasis BFL, and ABB. May I now request Mr. Venkatesh to kindly come on the dais and share his thoughts.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. I think when doctor came, a lot of echo I got. Maybe there's some score is working behind that, looks like. Okay, so a lot of things doctor talked about. I think some of the things which I'm going to cover. Please stop me when because usually I go over my time. So, 2 minutes? Okay, so I have few slides, but I will skip and go to specific slides, which in fact Dr. Anil talked about. So one of the things what is happening in the market is this is the technology trend what we are seeing. Everything is digital. What is digital? Everybody is calling digital. What is digital? So few things. Automation he talked about. So in the IT industry specifically, we talk about pyramid. I think some of you from IT industry, we say pyramid. But the pyramid is becoming more like a diamond because of the invasion of the automation. So we don't have much. A lot of questions are raised that whether we need to take a lot of freshers from the market. So that's the kind of thinking going on. So there's a big impact is going to happen because of automation. So that's number one we'll talk about. So next one is more of the delivery methods, how delivery are really changing the way we deliver any project or a program. That is second. Third is more of the platform and the ecosystem. There are a lot of books on that and a lot of things what we have seen like Airbnb or Uber. So a lot of things are there in the market to really see how platforms are more and more important because you build platform, not the products. So that is becoming next. Then a lot of disruptions we talked about. We'll see what really is happening on the industry. How a doctor's bag is really changed. Doctor bag is not no more stethoscope and things. It's different. It's completely different. That's how the Philips have changed the doctor's bag. So we'll talk about that. I think there are analytics experts who will talk about that analytics in the health region. So then overall, it's becoming more and more important. How do you really trust all these things in the cloud and everything? Because people ask questions on the security, how digital security comes up. That's very important. So quickly I will go to the RPA, we call robotic process automation. That's number one, where we do a lot of this automation, different tools, different things available. We talked about the BPO automation. Over and above that, we are thinking about how to really do the machine learning, getting the patterns. A lot of things are going on the trading and cognitive ability to really fix any issues coming up in the system. So that is happening. So this is in the market. A lot of people have started working on this, and you can see the kind of volume you will get in this market. So that's one kind of business we see. And it's really happening in a lot of clients. Already we have done for a few clients in this area. This is the new delivery method. So what is happening is, if you see all, I will not cover all. One is automation, definitely affecting the kind of delivery, what we do, any large programs, large projects, what we deliver. At the same time, a lot of business needs immediate actions, immediate things they need. So they call it agile, but really they don't follow agile, but it's in a different way. They want go to market faster. So that is very key and very important because anything they invest need to be either revenue based, right? So a lot of investment is coming down on really operation kind of work, and then it's invested in more of the digital business. That's what is happening in the market. Then the part of the pace of innovation, if you see the pace of innovation, it's very, very rapid. It's going on. Every day new technologies come. How do we really cope up with? Some companies, what they have done, we call it as Uber delivery model. Why? Because we will be kind of program managing and managing this, but we will engage with different universities and then crowdsourcing, those kind of things, which is really now in the market, because we have kind of agreements and the things, how we really manage them. So it's happening with the universities, because a lot of POCs need to be done with new technologies and show to the client that this solves the business. So that's why we are talking about collaborating with the universities. Then we talk about digital natives, the kind of workforce coming into daily, right? That is also increasing, and the way they want to see things, it's completely different from the UI, UX, everything changes, how it want to be. And also the kind of expectations they have. So these are the kind of things which impacts the delivery model, and we are completely changing the delivery model. Platforms and ecosystems, I'll touch upon if you see the earlier game plan and now, earlier it was kind of a distribution, how things are happening. I heard some people are from supply chain, how things happen, but now it's more of the ecosystem. How do you really tap the strength of the ecosystem, how you really partner, complement each other, that is what is ecosystem all about, and you create a platform for that. And you can see, I've just noted a few points on the Philips, because it's really amazing. Because Philips CEO right now, who is Yorantas, some people may know him. So he was actually a co-founder of Emphasis. So then he became CIO of Philips, and then now he's a CEO of Philips, driving all these technologies. So 2 minutes. In my present world, what I am doing from insurance perspective, and the healthcare, if you really see how it really impacts. So one is the core business. After that, we know about this Googlets, we know about the Android, the platform, mobility, all those stuff. But beyond that, how it impacts business, we are talking about insuring the car insurance in a different way, auto insurance in a different way, health insurance in a different way. So how we do enable it? So this is how people enable it. A pay as you use. Maybe they are thinking that when you use the car, that time only the insurance really starts coming into play. So if you drive for 1,000 hours, 1,000-hour insurance plan will be there. So those are the kind of thoughts in the market. New business plans will be there. So that will go on. And then the last one is on digital security. It is paramount importance, because without this, it's going to be kind of everybody can hack and do things, and a lot of digital assets, digital vault, those kind of things are coming into play. This will be very key, and a lot of investment is going on in different organizations. So this is the kind of a tone. I will just leave it here because we don't have much time to discuss. But this is the kind of thought process and idea behind how things are really impacting, how things are changing, the way we behave, and where the businesses are changing because of IT and information technology. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing such insightful speech and making us realize the recent technological changes in the industry. Our next speaker is Mr. K. Sridhar, Vice President Geo Money at Reliance Jio Infocom Limited. Mr. Sridhar has 16 years of rich experience in various roles across geographies. He is currently heading strategic partnership roles across banking and mass transit. He is also governing Jio Money mobile payment platform, seeking to build India's largest digital payment ecosystem. Before this, Mr. Sridhar spent over 6 years in credit bureau and decision analytics business as a director of business development at Experian India. He was also part of Aditya Puri committee on credit bureaus constituted by RBI. He is an engineering graduate from SJCE Mysore and an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. May I now request Mr. K. Sridhar, who is already here, to... So, stage is all yours. We are privileged to have you here.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon. I was actually looking in the audience for someone in my team who's an alumni from here. I couldn't find him. He said he'd be here. But that's good. It's a pleasure to be here, and I thank the Institute for having me over. So when I got this topic, I was like, look, am I really qualified to talk about this? I mean, we have a whole bunch of very specific industry professionals, and here I am. I've been a generalist. I've been in the credit bureau. I've dabbled around. And my last core IT stint was like way back in 98, right? So it's that old. But having looked at it, I thought about it and I said, hey, nothing that we are doing today is separated from digital. Everything that we do today has a very strong digital footprint. So maybe I said, look, it does give me a very useful chance to introspect about what I've done. And that's really what I want to present here. I'm not talking about core technologies. I'm just talking about what's probably mostly commonsensical, but what I've derived as I introspected in the past 24 hours about our journey, my journey at various companies as we went about trying to push digital and what sir said, technovation. I like that word, right? You can't separate digital from innovation these days. They're pretty much the same thing. So there we are, business the IT way. So when you want to digitize, and the topic was reimagining business. So I said, there are always a bunch of disruptors, they're doing new things, but today we have a whole bunch of businesses that want to say, how do I now push this to the next level? How do I go digital? How do I engage the customer? And so on. So really, when someone's tasked with taking the company digital, what is it that they look at? Of course, they have their core business operations, but having had the experience of being asked to push the boundary of innovation in a company earlier, it's not easy, right? Suddenly someone's thrust you with a lot of responsibility, and there you are, what one of my professors famously called the mosquito in a nudist colony dilemma. It says, where do I start, right? So, so where do you start, really? I mean, if you want to innovate in any company that you are in, if you want to drive digital, where do you start? The answer I found came in I was recently listening to Mr. Gurcharan Das, the ex-CEO of P&G, and he gave this one little example that I thought was very powerful. This story about his watchman in the P&G head office who took on the job of the receptionist when she was away. So he was the switchboard operator. And they didn't want to give it to him, right? Because he was, as he called, this total Dehati guy who said Procter & Gamble was Procter & Gamble or something like that. But of course, they trained him and they decided just because he was really hardworking to give him the job. And Gurcharan said that after a couple of days, he got calls from his counterparts globally saying, hey, you guys have a new switchboard system in place. We'd love it because like the phone gets picked up at the second ring. And so he told the security guy, he said, look, you don't really have to pick up the phone at the second ring. And that guy's response is really stunning. He says, sir, but there might be a customer at the other end, right? I think really, in a sense, therefore, if you want to innovate, you really want to ask yourself the reason why you're doing business, and that's your customer. So start looking at what is it that you do that touches the customer and see what difference you can make in there, right? So the next one, of course, is your internal operations. And the reason I have it here is many of us, and I'm as guilty of it in the past, we tend to look at our internal operations. We tend to say, you know what, this is what we're doing, this is what we can do better, and it's all incremental, right? But if it's not connected to the customer, it doesn't make sense, right? Figure out what your customer wants, and then let's talk internal. So broadly, let's say there's this company that wants to go digital, right? And the reason I have it as an infographic there is because the IT way is pretty much a 10x kind of an ecosystem for any company that wants to go digital. A, do it differently, right? This might seem like this really, I mean, what everyone wants to do it differently, right? But most companies fall in the trap of saying, these are my strengths, and they want to push those strengths further. And I've done it, right? We looked at, when we got the mandate to take something completely digital, to look 5 years down the line, we had this huge budget. And what did we do? We said, let's look at our core strengths. That's not how it's going to work, right? This is not an extension of your core strength. The same rules don't apply, right? So always, if you're going, thank you. Is that how much time I have or how much? Oh, okay. So use this opportunity to tap new capabilities. And the biggest thing, ask yourself, and this is the customer-facing question, does it mitigate pain or does it create some gain for someone, right? And if you can, the greater the pain that it mitigates, the better your solution is. This part I want to focus on for a second. Live the customer experience as you go digital. find out what your customer is doing, why they're doing, how they're doing, and when they're doing it. And this small example again, it's a personal example. My sister, she got a home loan. She was getting a home loan processed, and I was with the credit bureau. I know how these things work, right? I saw her so anxious. She's a doctor. I'm like, look, why are you so worried? She says, no, I've paid the broker, whatever his advance, and if I don't get the loan decision, then I have to go hunt, and if my time gets over, the agreement says that I lose the advance amount. And I'm like, it won't work, and if it comes to it, I know enough people in the industry. And she's like, no, you don't understand. And that's really the thing. What are banks doing? Today, they're just taking 10 days, 12 days on a home loan decision. But if they were to go and live the customer process, right? If they ask the customer is not going to say. Most customers just walk these days. They don't say. If someone's complaining to you, it's a great customer, right? But live the customer experience. And the guys who've done it really well, the largest private sector bank, the biggest consumer lender in India, they've done just the basic things right. I was talking to someone, they said they've reduced the file from 30 grams to 9 grams. I mean, it's like 30 grams to 9 grams. Is it a big deal? Yes, they completely cracked the consumer lending market. And some of these things, of course, a large part of the 30 gram to 9 gram was the digital story, right? They've used as many digital KYC, etc. that's possible. But the biggest thing is kill the uncertainty, right? Because otherwise you will be digitizing not to mitigate pain, but you will be digitizing in response to a threat because someone else will come and take away that business. So try and find out if there's customer uncertainty anywhere and kill it. Right? And of course, if you're talking to the younger generation, speak in their mother tongue is digital. And the last piece is agility. This is really where once you want to do stuff, you start looking at streamlining process, engage with your employees who do it every day, look at your data. Now, we have instances of big data, we're looking at analytics, we're looking at data to give us hypothesis simply because there's just so much amount of data. But again, very, very quick anecdote. So I was once looking at this large process and I was told to troubleshoot it in one of my consulting assignments. And there was a lot of angst because this was a trucking process and this is a company that owned major trucks across the United States. And they were paying a huge amount of taxes, but the process was all in shambles. They said people were paying taxes to the wrong states and they were getting hit with tax outstanding bills, which in the US is a very dangerous thing, right? You don't want the IRS after you. So, and then we looked at the process. I said, hey, hold on a second. Can I just have a look at where the taxes are being paid and paid the most? And I found out this one thing that it's probably your biggest learning from MBA school, the Pareto, right? So there it was. They were paying taxes to Alabama. And I looked at Alabama on the United States map, and it is in this corner near Texas, between Texas and Florida. And I wasn't even sure that so many trucks pass through Alabama, right? But in the US, they have this rule that if the trucks spend more than 150 days in that state, then that state gets to claim the share of trucking revenue tax and stuff like that. And Alabama didn't make sense at all. And then I went to this small team that was doing the digital data entry for trucking applications. And they found that more often than not, trucks, they didn't know at that point in time where the trucks were. So there was no entry for no state. So guess what they were doing? They were just picking the first state, Alabama. AL in the drop-down box and boom. Right? So if someone starts talking to you about data and so on, please look under your nose. Right? You will get to big data, but start with the small ones right under your nose. Millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars in fines because some IT process had the drop-down as Alabama. It didn't have a drop-down for a plain state. So that's another thing. And of course, rapid application development, experiment, iterate. So start figuring out stuff on your digital journey. And please keep it non-traditional. The moment you go to traditional sources, and I've seen it in the past, the largest companies, the largest foreign banks, they get back to you saying they'll process an MIS report that you want in 4 months. Not going to work. So set up something on the side and keep it away from the traditional route as much as possible. Once you want to scale, of course, you can go the traditional route. And the last thought bubble up there is because it occurred to me last. I was wondering what thought bubble goes up there, right? Give it wings. So when you want to do it differently, you really want to do it differently. Don't keep it part of the process. You want to innovate, you want to push things digital, you want to let it fly, literally, and keep it away from the mainstream. Like with any MBA presentation, I thought I should end with a 2x2. So you have digital capabilities and you have leadership. And there's this interesting article that I read in this book. It speaks of beginners, conservatives, fashionistas, and digital masters. Beginners, it says, are people who say, yeah, I understand all that, but it doesn't work in my industry, doesn't work for me. Conservatives are the people who say, who always bring in controls into every process. They say regulatory controls, process controls will not let me do something, and so on. Of course, they are higher on the leadership because they are financial controllers and so on, but typically they are the conservatives. Fashionistas, it says, are people who do it, but do it in silos. And digital masters are what it claims as an industry, high technology industry, banking, and so on. But in my view, it is not about the industry. That's so old school, right? Because industries cannot be slotted into any one of these. People can. And all along, I've been saying in my previous slide, you do this and you do that, right? So I think for any company that really wants to reimagine its business the digital way, it needs to have a digital master. And it's not about the technology, really, right? I've seen people obsess so much about technology. Technology is important. You have your experts to look at that, but it's not so much about the technology. For any company to do this, they have to have a top-down vision. It comes from one person's vision, and that's what I'm sure most of you are aspiring to be someday. So if you're there, please own this vision of driving. Don't give it to someone else. I could give you stories about why and how it can go wrong, but I guess I'm out of time, so I'll stop here. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that very passionate speech. We truly learned a lot from your take on digital and how companies can do it differently, and also a lot from your anecdotes. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mr. Milind Tasgaonkar, Head of the Cloud Business and Alliances at NetApp. Mr. Tasgaonkar, besides handling strategic roles, is also deeply involved in expanding NetApp businesses by offering cloud-based solutions to its end customers. Mr. Tasgaonkar has held roles in sales and systems engineering functions over a period of 22 years. He has engaged with some of the largest enterprises in India in verticals such as banking, manufacturing, IT, and oil and gas. He also has considerable experience in technologies such as data center, virtualization, networking, unified communications, and video. Prior to NetApp, Mr. Tasgaonkar has worked with Cisco Systems, Tata Infotech Limited, and Compaq. May I now request Mr. Milind Tasgaonkar to kindly come on stage and share his thoughts with us.
So I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of Samavesh 2016. So this is the first time I have come to a meet which is organized by an academic institutions. So I thank SPJIMR, I thank all the members out here, distinguished members of the institute. I thank the organizers, students, faculty for giving me a chance to take part in this meet. So whatever I'm going to say now and then later on in the panel is they are purely my views and they don't necessarily echo what my organization says. Right? So the topic for today is reimagining business, information technology way. And I think it is a very powerful kind of a statement. So it's not that we ask a business, what is your IT strategy? It's more about asking the individual LOBs of these organizations is what is your plan by including IT into that, right? So there is a remarkable difference. Right? When I read about this topic, then a series of thoughts came into my mind. So the objective of next 5 to 6 minutes is just to share those thoughts with you. Right? So before that, there are two parts, right? And the earlier speaker mentioned clearly that we have a IT and then we have a business. Right? So let's have a bit of an overview about that. So when you talk of IT, then it has been playing largely a role of business enabler. Right? So it's more about doing things cheaper and faster. Right? And it was considered more as a support organization. But now it's not the case. So businesses have been forced to get into doing something differently. Right? So why? What's the reason for that? Because there is constant disruption. So any company can't, stay on top for long. So the organizations which have been there for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years have been crumbling, right? More because of the disruptions that have come in. So they can't stand still. They want to go ahead and, build some kind of a differentiation from other organizations. So that's the major driving point for them. Secondly, they would want to, their margin pressures are coming down. So if you look at any organization in any segment, the kind of, the way they attract the consumers, it's more on the price, primarily. So I can give it much faster, can give it much cheaper to you, right? And that's having a constant pressure on the margins, right? And third thing is the competitive advantage that they want to do. So if there is a head start of at least 6 months, the businesses would prosper. So the way how they want to go ahead and work on all these areas, IT is a very suitable kind of a vehicle for them. The reason being, the precision in IT. You set the things right, you write the softwares well, and then you get it right, and then it will give you accurate results consistently. That's the most important part. Secondly, whatever modeling you do in business using the IT, you can go ahead and modify it. You can go ahead and change it as and when the business environment changes, right? And that you can do it very fast. So the organizations can become more agile and they can become more responsive. Right? And third thing, and the most important part, is that of the change in the demographics. So the digital literacy is increasing, and as we go further, the rate of increase of this literacy is going to be very high. So all the people that are involved in the entire business landscape, so whether it is a producer, whether it is an employee or a supplier or a consumer, they are digitally literate. So they would be able to, they don't have any worries in interfacing with an IT-enabled kind of a setup, right? So that's the reason why IT is playing a role, in the business strategy. So what's the impact actually? Right? So what's the impact on the organizations? So there is going to be impact on how the organizations are going to function, as well as there is going to be impact on the organization's structure itself. Right? So when there is a need to go and assimilate IT into the individual business functions, right? So the LOBs would be definitely asked to go ahead and build up their business strategy using information technology. Okay? And this is going to bring some amount of disruption into the organization structure. And I have been seeing that in my experience also. So there is a large private sector bank in India. So earlier the application teams were reporting into the IT organizations, but now they are reporting into the LOB. Right? So this is a major change. As per me, as we go into this journey, so on one extreme end, probably all the IT departments, all IT teams, they would start reporting into the LOB, and there may not be any IT and department itself, or there won't be any IT function itself. Or on the other side, we would have the business functional heads becoming head of the IT department. So it will no longer be a technologist kind of a domain. It will have the business functions coming into it. But nonetheless, the line between the core IT and the non-IT is going to get blurred. So we'll be having a lot of technologists getting into the business roles and vice versa. So which technology is going to take center stage? So there are a lot of technologies being suggested by your organizers. So IoT or cognitive computing or robotics. So I wouldn't like to predict any one particular technology, and I feel that no one should predict as well. But nonetheless, all these technologies are very promising, right? And there are a lot of money and a lot of dollar being spent on the research. But there are three considerations that I have, which when we go ahead and actually imbibe this technology, there are three considerations that one needs to take care of. One is the way how these technologies are going to get consumed, or the consumption model. It may no longer be a case where the customers would go ahead and buy it on their own and then start using it. It's more like people would go ahead and use it as a service for a very short time, pay per use. And when they are done with that use, they would actually give it back. So we are going to see a lot of cloud services coming into the picture. Right? Second consideration is the user experience. So as I mentioned, the users are very well tuned towards the IT-enabled interfaces, and if they find the user experience is not good, they would stop using those technologies. So another important consideration is that the user experience had to be kept into the mind. And finally, the third thing is data. So if you talk technology like IoT, so the huge amount of data is getting generated, right? So where do we store this data? How do we protect it? How do we back it up? How do we ensure that it doesn't get proliferated? How do we ensure that if somebody demands the data, how can we render it to him in a very speedy manner and in the format that he desires, right? So these are the considerations that would be there across all the technologies that we discussed. So one final point now is, so we have seen the organizations trying to differentiate themselves. So you as individuals, how would you want to go ahead and differentiate between your peers? So how would you be different from the person sitting next to you, right? So obviously the things is to look for trends. So things are very dynamic, look out for trends. And not all jobs pay high. So some jobs which pay high, they start paying low after some time. So keep in mind. So classic case is something like a sales job. So my view is that the sales job is getting more of a redundant, because all entire information available in the internet. All my customers are well aware about the technology before I go ahead and sit with them, right? That's the reality. So there is obviously a process of learning and unlearning. So learning the new stuff and unlearning the new stuff. So in my last 20 years, one thing that I learned is there is something called learning, which we are all aware of, but there is also something called which we have to do unlearn, right? So that's the message I wanted to pass. So thanks to back to you, host.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts and explaining us how disruptions have made businesses do things differently. Our next speaker is Mr. Prasad Rautre, Vice President and Business Head at Bharti Airtel Limited. Mr. Prasad has 18 years of experience in the telecom industry across various verticals such as M&D, IT, ITES, and BFSI. In his current assignment, Mr. Prasad has been at the forefront to enable the transformation of enterprise customers of Airtel into the digital era. In this new era, where digital, mobile, and internet play a big role, he believes that telecommunication companies are now best placed to deliver the true digital experience. He is also associated with leading educational institutes which help him in reverse mentoring and staying in touch with the future global professionals. May I please request Mr. Prasad Rautre to share his thoughts with us.
Can you hear me? Okay, so in 7 to 10 minutes to put a story of 20 years is actually attempting a Guinness Book of World Records. But I'll make an attempt and see where I reach. I actually picked out 3 things from all my colleagues who spoke, and first to come with what's happening right down below your nose is something which I learned from my colleague here. I think that's an important category. The second one that I heard before I came to the stage is don't recommend any technology. And the third one that actually came from the opening note was, while you look digital, while we try to reimagine business, look at your fundamentals that you really have to look for. Before I really get into some videos that I've tried to see how I can actually relate it, I just wanted to tell you one thing. I strongly recommend digital, but there has to be something physical, and I will talk about it in the last minute of my dialogues. Is the AV ready?
In 10 years' time, what will the communications and IT landscape look like? As a communication service provider, you are at the center of this world today. But are you strengthening your position to take full advantage of the emerging market opportunities? What are some of the new business models you need to embrace? Can you deliver on the future, leveraging your existing infrastructure? People and businesses are increasingly mobile, and everyone wants the same experience, regardless of what device they are using, regardless of where they are. That creates a huge potential market for you to help enterprises mobilize their applications and workforce. Cloud services represent a huge opportunity for you, both in developed markets targeting the enterprise and in emerging markets targeting both consumers and businesses. Consider your role in the N2M ecosystem. Connectivity is something all N2M applications have in common. World where massive data growth threatens to overwhelm your network capacity, network functions virtualization will provide a more agile and cost-effective network, helping you manage data end-to-end more easily and shrink CapEx down to size. What's more, the systems and processes needed to provision new services are often inefficient and time-consuming. What you need is a network that is software defined, allowing you to scale up and down and launch new services in minutes rather than months. Imagine the innovation this unprecedented elasticity will bring. Communication service providers are facing a great opportunity, a choice. Continue to struggle with increasing data and rising CapEx, or pursue the route to the new business of the network. HP can set you on the right path and be with you every step of the way.
In fact, sir spoke about everybody wants to do everything, you know. That's exactly where we are landing up in telecom side is what I can fairly tell you. But having said that, I would like to share with you how we are changing internally. And I'm not reflecting only on Airtel, I'm saying in general the way the industry is moving. You know. So from a high capex, let me give you an idea about the capex. We must have in the last 20 years put in close to 3.5 lakh crore into this country, yet we have complaints of call drops, you know. And we are still trying to really make you more happy. Having said that, I think 3-4 things clearly are now emerging. One is that not to be sticking to one kind of vendor and one kind of technology. I mean, while 2G, 3G, 4G are natural movements, you cannot lie down on organizations like one saying IBM or the other one saying Ericsson and take them in 15 years' time. Because there are ZT is coming up, there are Huawei is coming up, and so on and so forth. So technology and OEMs are really trying to battle this field. So thereby one fundamental thing that at least we are seeing in the industry, and which is something which we believe we have mastered, is give the technology to the people who actually handle technology. For example, you know, allow an Ericsson or ZTE to really deploy the entire infrastructure on their own, but build it as a service to us. So thereby it is their problem, it's not my problem. My problem is to get the customers and allow the technology to be handled by them. You know. Of course, keep an eye and nose and our absolute rhythm on it, and obviously look at how they are developing in competitive world. The second thing that we are looking at is how is the consumer behavior moving. Now, to give you a sense, and I was talking to some of your professors, when we built Bombay in the last 10 years' time, we built to actually make outdoor coverage as a supreme coverage and probably give you some coverage in the home. You know. In the last 12 months, we have actually reversed it. Because if you look at your own home, the consumption of telecom is actually more at your home, less on the outdoor. You know. Or let's say whenever you are actually in a classroom like this or a setup like this, the consumption happens in a particular place. It does not really diversify. And the third one, video and I would say data has actually taken over 3 times more than what we would have actually expected, 3 to 4 times. So when we build networks, we are building in STMs, if some of you understand languages. Now it moves into terabytes and gigs and all. You know. So our networks have become virtualized. In fact, the last thing that was told in this particular video was, we're actually looking something called as software-defined networks. You know. So networks are not going to be physical, but it will be virtualized. You know. So what will happen, I'll give you an example. You know, when a Western Express highway actually goes for video traffic and it's already moving, and you are watching a movie right when you are actually in the back seat of the car, I will turn the network for those 3 to 4 hours, let's say beginning from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., turn it by 5 times the capacity and turn off and turn back to your home. So imagine that kind of traffic dimensioning that takes place. It's not static that there are 4 BTS and it actually fires an X amount of capacity. Actually, capacity moves as the industries or the behavior moves. That's the kind of cover that you would find in a metro kind of city. So that's, to my mind, is what we are doing on the infrastructure part of it, and thereby chasing consumer behavior more than technology in isolation. I would actually play one video right now to tell what's possibly coming our way and how digital impact actually is going to take care of our future, or maybe some of you are already experiencing as a current situation. So let me play this video for you.
Welcome to a world that runs on the tip of your finger, where we are connected like never before. And our devices know more about us than we could ever imagine. Where information about us is changing the environment around us. Where distances cease to exist, and you're always close to what's closer to you. A world with technology so advanced, it would tell us what we need even before we know we need it. A network with unlimited data, constantly communicating with us, to make our cities smarter and our lives even simpler. Where organizations have all the data from different devices to optimize their operations and focus on the big picture. It's a world where every day serves as a new experience, and the most distant imagination keeps turning into reality. It's a future that has the power to change everything. A future that sits at the pinnacle of technological brilliance. We at Airtel are co-creating this digital future for you.
When we actually created this video for ourselves, we actually were thinking that what are we as an organization? Are we a telecom company, a lifestyle company, a finance company, or many others? I've just got the note of last 1 minute. So I'll go back to what I started. Why I believe that while we really surge into the world of digital, why we should keep something physical. I was just thinking that when you fall in love, or when you fall in actually like somebody, imagine, I hope you don't use the net app on the cloud. You actually don't get into analytics around Airtel Money, or let's say in Jio. You actually don't necessarily get into what digitally you would actually analyze. And I hope those things actually keep more towards your heart. So my request to all of you is that as we get into a disruption into digital, control it. It's in your eyes and eyes and ears. This is something which can take over lives of human beings. One of the guys who actually told me, and it was a very, very, for me, a very frightening statement, yet an opportunity, is that imagine, Prasad, one morning you get up and there is actually a door, your door gets knocked, and there's a doctor standing to you and saying in 45 minutes you're going to get an heart attack based on the analytics that has been done, and that is actually a ambulance standing. It will take you to the doctor, and in 50 minutes time you'll get operated, and here you are. That is something which can happen to you. So welcome to this new world, but keep something away from digital. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Rautre. Thanks for your thoughts. Thanks especially for helping us bridge the gap between the digital and the physical world. Thank you. Our next speaker, Mr. Satyen Jadeja, is an industry leader and associate director at IBM India, where he leads the digital transformation, cognitive and analytics strategy initiatives. Mr. Satyen has over 23 years of diverse experience in business development and strategy roles and is deeply engaged with CXOs of corporations across sectors for identifying business value and accelerating innovation. He has been a founding member of an analytics startup called Ananto. He has also been senior director at Hughes Communications. Mr. Satyen led and implemented award-winning innovative IT solutions for SBI, UFO Movies, Reliance Retail, Bombay Stock Exchange, and ITC's eJobFall. Mr. Satyen is a Sloan Fellow and has a Master's in Leadership and Strategy from London Business School. May I please call upon Mr. Satyen Jadeja to kindly come on stage and share his thoughts with us.
So, very good afternoon to all of you. It's been a real pleasure to be here at SP Jain. I think you guys are privileged because I think you have an outstanding faculty, right? I think the kind of effort you guys are putting, so you guys also deserve a big round of applause for 2 days of fantastic effort, right? Right. So I think, and great to hear from all the fellow distinguished speakers and great to learn from them. I think we are in a world of beyond meritocracy. So we look forward to learn from you. I think experience now don't count. It's the skills that count. The organizations succeed on basis of the skills people have. Experience is just an added advantage, but even you guys can succeed. So my first question to all of you, who's planning to get into a job? None. How many planning a startup? Oh, you guys are privileged, yeah? You are SP Jain and only 3 guys doing a startup. Who else will do a startup if you don't do, right? So I think my sincere request to all of you to consider, because you are the best brains around. So think about doing something more, yeah. And this is the age of doing and experimenting, right? We talk about reinventions, agile, design, everything, right? So think about it. So, I quickly, in the paucity of the time that we have, what I'm thinking is you guys are very intelligent, so I'm just going to leave you with some 5 thought process, technologies, whatever you say. It kind of see where it's like shooting 5 arrows in the sky, where they'll land up, we don't know, but we'll quickly take you through those 5 things. And these are kind of starter conversations, and I leave it to you to deep dive into this at your own time and comfort, right? We talked about digital, SMAC, so you are already aware about everything. So we need not talk about anything on SMAC, digital. So that was a challenge I had. So what I have to speak now? But I think fundamentally we all are aware that all the speakers mentioned about the data one way or other. So data is important. Whether in terms of consumption from the Airtel side or from the cloud side, the storage of data. So data is definitely going to be important, and data, you would have studied in your academia that data is a new source of competitive advantage, right? Famous Harvard Business School paper on Tom Davenport, data is a competitive advantage. Have you guys studied it? No. Should. The emergence of cloud, we have representative from NetApp here. I think the world is like running, and all the enterprises, all organizations are running hard to convert their infrastructure, get into cloud. The cloud is not just a source of cost effectiveness, but it is a whole source of innovation, because the startups, maybe 5-10 years back, if you had to do a startup, you would need around maybe $100,000 to set the IT infrastructure up and running. Today, you can do it in 5 days' time. And you can scale to petabytes of clusters on cloud and create a fantastic big database business model to run your business. So the cost of setting up a business has come down, say, 1/100th. And that's why I encourage you to think this is a time to do something, right? So you can run your entire business on cloud. You don't need any IT people. Actually, the business guy can run the whole thing on cloud, right? You have all the services available. And third, I mean, you all are aware, I'm not going to say much on that. In mobile and social, everybody has a mobile phone, everybody has a social account and WhatsApp, and God knows what's happening. So it's going. Have you heard about digital Darwinism? Anybody? Raise hand. No. So it's about you, actually. The companies always struggle to keep up with the end users' rate of acceptance of technology. So by the time companies are struggling to interact with you on a Facebook, you guys are already on WhatsApp. Now the companies are struggling. How do I engage my customer on WhatsApp? Right? By the time you try to do WhatsApp, you will move to Instagram or something. So that's digital Darwinism. So companies will always be lagging behind in terms of engagement. So I'm leaving you with 5 thoughts quickly and in positive time, but these are kind of starters. I think first is obviously the cognitive, right? What is cognitive computing about? Just a background context to it is earlier you used to develop, you had to really do coding and then run the programs. In the cognitive era, the computer is like a child, so it keeps learning and improving its knowledge, and its ability to absorb the knowledge is much more than an individual is. So you are kind of democratizing your expertise to a one place. So that's one area. I'll leave it to you. Multiple examples here. We are doing something with Manipal Hospital on cancer research. So cognitive computing is kind of helping the doctors advise what is the best form of treatment, because a doctor can only read 50 documents, but here in a cognitive computer you can read 50 to 60,000 research documents and come out with the best treatment plans. So that is one. IoT we discussed a lot, so I'm not going to touch upon that. It's spreading like wildfire, means across business units. You are all businesses, whether it's government, whether it's your healthcare or anything, everybody is using IoT. Wearables is one example of IoT, but there are multiple in that. This is something about how we can do predictive maintenance. You would have recently heard about Nakata, the bags, air safety bags in the vehicle, right? They had a massive recall, and their almost 10 billion devaluation of their company happened. So you can actually do predictive maintenance to recall even before you hit such a massive problem for the organization. We talked about ecosystems. Uber is one example of ecosystems. Oyo rooms is one example of ecosystem. So you actually don't own it, but you are such a massive player that you control the whole ecosystem. So you have like Airbnb and likes of Uber. This is an expanding ecosystem, and think about more and more business like Paytm or banks, telecom, combining everything to offer the best value services to the customer. So that's example ecosystem. The new thing, what they are saying, what was internet in 1992, 1993, is what blockchain is all about. If anybody has heard about Bitcoin, blockchain is a shared ledger concept, and it is taking the financial world by storm. It's fascinating because imagine you're transferring payments from India to US, and you'd do around, say, 3-4 days. With blockchain, companies like Western Union will be in trouble, because this whole shared ledger concept, you can almost instantaneously do it in a very transparent way. So blockchain is something I'll leave your thoughts. And final one, the quantum computing. There's been recent breakthrough where your power of computing has kind of exponentially rose from yearly used to do in bits and bytes. But now with quantum, so you have qubits, and it is really going to change the way all the businesses in terms of computing power to mine the massive amount of data that is being generated across healthcare, insurance, and other industries. So I'll leave it to you that. And this is the father of artificial intelligence, and he said, we can only have a short distance ahead, but we can do plenty of there. So I thank you so much, and look forward for further discussions. That's about from me here.
Over the last 1 hour, we have gathered insights from eminent leaders of the industry. We now move on to the panel discussion, where our very own Professor Oscar D'Souza will be guiding our esteemed guests. Professor Oscar D'Souza has a mix of over 30 years of corporate experience and over 10 years of experience in academia. Besides SPJMR, he has also taught at SPJCM, Dubai and Singapore. He routinely participates in doing business programs for the European School of Business, VLG Belgium, National University of Singapore, ESCP Paris, and the UK Trade and Investment Board at London. He is a postgraduate in physics from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, postgraduate engineer from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and an MBA from Jamnalal Bajaj. May I now request our esteemed speakers and Professor Oscar D'Souza to kindly occupy their respective chairs on the stage for the panel discussion. Panelists and sir, the floor is yours. You can start the discussion.
All right, good evening and welcome to the panel discussion. My first question is to Prasad, Bharti Airtel. And I recall the day when your CEO was once asked a question. Airtel has outsourced everything. It's outsourced the infrastructure to IBM, it's outsourced the billing. What do you own? And your CEO, and I would like to put that question to the audience. So what do you think he said? Because you're all future CEOs. What do you think he said? Sorry? Very good. Your future CEO. All right. So he said, yes, he said, we own the customer. And I think that's very important. So taking this forward, how has outsourcing really helped you to become the #1 Indian telecom market player, which you are?
Okay, so in fact, IBM is my biggest example. So I hope we are not sitting because we have been outsourcing to IBM. I would not call it the word outsource. I think that's where it fails. People believe that outsourcing is a word which is possibly sometimes taken very negative. I would say right sourcing. Yeah. My belief is that if there was a word called right sourcing, it could have probably put the entire story in a different context. And why I'm saying this is, I'll give you some examples. And I remember since I worked for 18 years in Airtel and I had many interactions with Sunil. And this was a question that, in fact, we were asking Sunil that, except the heart, everything is going. So the heart was obviously the customer. And he was saying, friends, anything that we don't know, we should not handle. But anything we want to do should get the best partner. It was, in fact, a very, very strong, I would say, sales pitch by Sunil to IBM. Because that time we were only 300 crore company, and to tell IBM, which is billions of this thing, saying that you will invest with me, and the contract, and this contract now is more or less known into various business schools. We told them that I'll give you out of the 100 rupees, 3 rupees to you. But we don't know the system. You will deploy everything on IT side, but out of the return, 3 rupees comes back to you. So whenever as business guys, we used to always do a business case, we'll say, okay, IBM takes 3 rupees. I said, my God, why do they take 3 rupees from this? Because the deal will anyway not happen, So thereby I would say that was a very, very well structured, because then the problem of IBM is known best to the people of IBM. If I start buying servers, putting things into myself, I'll have to deploy people to run those shows, which was not the way to look at it. So thereby we created something called as Minutes Factory, which we said we understand that language, which is output to the network by the softwares or the network guys. So similarly we did for Ericsson, Nokia and all. So I would say, to summarize, it was the best decisions and we stand by that.
Great. I'm going to ask you a second quick question. You've also been doing a bit of insourcing as well. Yeah. So how did that change?
I think the story, I would say the insourcing story came when we went to Africa. I mean, we thought that what we have done with IBM or Ericsson and Nokia will go ahead and replicate in Africa, and everything that we thought actually didn't work, because Africa actually gave us a new Airtel view. What happened in that place is we could realize that these are not single countries, these are like single people who handle the countries, you know. And then you change the entire landscape of how we look at it. So IBM struggled, we struggled, Nokia struggled, Ericsson struggled. Then we decided that, okay, if my partners cannot come with me with their brains, let me start the brain in that. So we redesigned the entire approach to say, okay, let me put some of the best people who really are from the R&D side of, let's say, Nokia, Ericsson, so who really tell us what technology can bring in. You know. So we got the best of the brains out of, you know, possibly from, you know, organizations like IBM, Ericsson, Nokia, put them into a particular, you know, setup, and that's why we thought we will design, somebody will deliver. So design and delivery was actually period 2001, 2010, 11. Design ours, delivery theirs is from 2011 onwards. And I think it's working as of now today, so hopefully it's a mix of insourcing and outsourcing.
Okay, IBM must be not very happy with that, but anyway, we'll move ahead. So Reliance Jio, I mean, Sridhar, you got a clean slate. So where do you propose to start? This is your first financial year, I'm told.
Yes. I think there's a lot to be done, right? One of the biggest things, and you must have heard our chairman speak, data is the new oil. So, and what we're trying to build is what I would compare to a highway. Of course, we have the Airtels of the world. We have a lot of people trying to do that already. But Reliance has made huge investments in trying to create fiber networks and so on. We are talking of connectivity speeds of 100 Mbps to 1 Gbps. What it does is proverbially it widens the highway from a 1-lane highway to a 8-lane highway. And I think there's a lot that can ride on that highway, right? I think Professor Vaidya had this question, everyone wants to do everything. It's clearly the moment you make your highway from a 1-lane to an 8-lane, there are a lot of vehicles that can go, and we want to see how many of those mediums we can own, and I'm sure a lot of people think similarly. Some of those vehicles might at some point in time give up, or someone else might produce a better range of vehicles, but that doesn't stop us from figuring out what we can do there. As far as Jio Money is concerned, we are very clear we want to build the most ubiquitous payments network in the country, right? Fairly aligned to the government vision, especially the Prime Minister's own vision of digitizing payments. We've done studies and we've figured out that there's significant savings that can come to the economy once payments are digitized, and we want to be there. And a big part of us being there is to drive acceptance. So it's to get a whole lot of merchants to accept this new digital currency, and about incentivizing these merchants, not through cashbacks and so on, because that's not sustainable over a long period of time, but really provide them added value in accepting the currency. The moment you accept currency on one side, you build customers on the other side.
You're talking of cryptocurrency?
No, we are just talking of digital money.
Digital
right?
money,
So
okay.
This is not cryptocurrency. Okay. It's just money that you load from what you would normally withdraw as cash, you load into your wallets.
All right.
But where do you spend it? So we're trying to build the merchant ecosystem as well. It'll take some time. We have a 3-year goal to get there. So that's broadly what we want to do. I hope I've answered your question.
So what's your first steps? I mean, in this current year, what are your first steps?
I don't know if I would want to speak specifically about Jio, but broadly I think there are a lot of wallet players out there. There are about 48 wallet licensees, right? And RBI is very, very interestingly given payment bank licenses, wallet licenses, and it's kind of set this whole ecosystem around banks. And we are all now, every contract that I go to, every deal that I'm talking of, the bank is also on the same table, right? So I think they've kind of set this whole thing in motion, pretty much as an experiment, right? Some of them will do really well, some of them may not. But broadly, as wallet companies, the idea would be to build more and more use cases. We internally do what we like to call the toothbrush test that Google so famously compares itself to, which is if you can get the customer to use your app twice a day. And if you can build enough use cases, compelling use cases that gets them to use it twice a day, it starts to build a habit. And digital payments is a habit. Often I get asked questions about, do you really think the merchant will accept digital money? Because there's tax implications and so on, and India runs this whole other cash economy thing. My answer to that's always been that even if he does 10% of it through the digital medium, I'd be hugely successful. So we don't want to solve 100% on day one, right? Because we know there are certain cultural constraints, there are certain legacies that we have. But if you get the guy to do 10%, and you'll get him to do it if you get the customer to start demanding, saying, I want to pay with Jio Money or with any digital currency.
So your approach is a little different from maybe Airtel or Vodafone.
I think everyone has different strengths that they want to play to, right?
Because clearly, between Airtel, Vodafone and Idea, I think they hold somewhere 90% of the market in terms of, so clearly if you need to get into a market like this, you need to be, maybe, I don't know,
the market's 100 times bigger than that.
Yeah, it is, definitely it is. So your approach is definitely very different from theirs. Okay, let's get to IBM. Satyan, you're on the cutting edge, leading edge of technology, analytics. Everyone wants to do that, be there. So what's new about IBM and analytics?
So, a lot of it happening, I think broadly we divide the whole thing into descriptive analytics, so what has happened in the past, right, and then the predictive, what will happen in the future about a product or about a market or about the demand. So that's your predictive analytics. So the next is prescriptive, having predicted what's going to happen in the future, what you should do about it. So that's your prescriptive. So having understood that this insurance customer is going to not renew his policy, we'll get an early warning signal about that this customer is not likely to renew the policy. So you're going to predict that. So IBM is doing that part. The prescriptive part, so having understood that he's not going to renew it, we are going to run campaigns for him, very targeted campaigns on his channel or her channel of preference. So whether he likes it on SMS or he likes it on his mobile app. So we'll do that prescriptive part too. And then beyond that is the whole cognitive analytics. So where we are, the 80% of the data is unstructured data in terms of email, voice, images, right? So we are leveraging those unstructured data, or what we call dark data, and leveraging artificial intelligence, deep learning algorithms into it to make more sense in terms of solving, say, cancer related, this kind of very chronic diseases. Or there is maybe you had heard about a company called Toys. Have a look on YouTube. So it's about creating a toy which can engage with a child in a personalized manner. So there's built-in cognitive analytics into it. So IBM is doing a lot into this, including dishing out a recipe based on cognitive, right, apart from doing something on health. So I'll say that we are there in the entire data value chain. So that's the new value chain we talk about, where you have data being generated from IoT or devices, from unstructured data till cognitive. So that's your entire value chain. So IBM is doing a lot on this part, including the whole real-time analytics which is being talked about.
So in the area of cognitive computing, I mean, we've heard of Watson and all that, but where is it going?
So Watson is, I'll say it's a IBM product for cognitive computing, and it's being extensively applied in the areas for telecom, health, education, whether you are engaging with the customer, optimizing your supply chains, right, or to the extent of insurance underwriting. Because the challenge for an insurer is they have one or two best underwriters. But how do you democratize that underwriting to that? So Watson is helping underwriters on insurance. So that's what I'm saying, that the whole technology part is across businesses, across functions, getting deployed. So doing a lot on that area, and hoping to add more value to the customer. End of the day, customer matters. So.
By the way, any one of you can answer, so you don't have to be, you can add on to him. Right. You know, Gartner predicts that in the next 5 years, you know, around 15 million people will be reporting to a robo-boss. And in the next 15 years, 20 years, we will have to compete with robots for jobs. Some of you.
So it's not. Maybe I can add that because he picked up insurance. So he talked about the underwriting area. I don't know anybody from insurance industry here. So there is another area called as claims. So what you're talking about in 15 years, it's not true. It has already started.
Right.
Okay. So we have already implemented for a large American insurance company. So these robots start doing the claims process, automate all the claims process. It means that a lot of people who really, when the F0 comes, that is the first notice comes, and then start logging in. So those are the kind of job, repetitive jobs are all now killed. So
I don't see anyone laughing now. Jobs are killed.
So it's all killed and doing.
Okay.
And beyond that, I was just talking during the time of tea. So there is no more like a pyramid structure in any company. It will be more like a diamond structure. So that's what they're thinking about. It means the pyramid, a lot of will be automated. We don't need so many people in the pyramid in the bottom. So we need more like who people manage these robots, manage some kind of work. So there will be more. So that's the kind of model you need to really think. It means it puts lots of pressure to people back in the engineering colleges who are coming out, whether they will be really employed. So a lot of questions are there.
Or employable.
Are employable, right? So these are the things really.
Just to add, I mean, while robotics is going to be there, but fundamentally it will only aid in the human decision making, because ultimately the humans have to train the robots, right? And it kind of supports and in your decision making process with an enriched set of information which a human brain cannot accumulate that kind of knowledge. So for like Watson for oncology, where they digest lakhs of documents on oncology research, and when the doctor has to predict or write a therapy for the treatment of cancer, Watson will give advice that these are the 4 best treatment outcomes. Ultimately the doctor decides which is to go for it. So I feel that robotics will be there, but to an extent of supporting the decision making for humans.
The point we're trying to say is after as you said, after 5 years or 10 years, will the roles be reversed? So
But look,
okay,
I think the younger generations also smartening up, right? You see this movie Ender's Game. They have this kid who actually runs the strategy of dealing with robots, because they're equally equipped to play with the new set of rules. And we might say the rules will change. Of course, they will change. But as humans, you know, the younger generation is getting a lot smarter. Like my kids, 5 and 8, they spend a lot of time with Siri, right? And that's really the technology that's now coming into chatbots and service requests. So as you were saying, most of the initial set of claims processing or any such customer facing thing is now being handled by a chatbot. And you don't even know if the person on the other side is for real, but it's as authentic as if someone's right there.
I mean, I see some of you must have seen the video on henna hotels in Japan, where there are no human beings, only robots handling the whole hotel. So think, Venkat, Virtusa prides itself on delivering outcome-driven, innovative insurance solutions. Could you tell us something, how you do it?
So one is, I think I talked about this robotics in insurance. Second thing is, in fact, we use IBM Watson too in a different environment, because what is happening is in the market, insurance, I think I covered in a single slide but very fast, but we need to really talk about that. So in the market, insurance, one is people are not going to renew the insurance, but really changing the way the insurance is. It's not going to be like your car insurance is going to be there for 1 year. It's going to be number of hours you drive the car. So the auto insurance policies itself, change process in a thought is coming, that why they need to pay when car is just parked. So they need to pay insurance only for when they drive. So that is another thought. So another thing also, insurance premium varies based upon your driving style. It's already started and the data is being collected, and then based upon that.
So how do you capture your driving style?
So driving style is captured so they have already, we also from Virtusa Polaris, we have created a kind of hardware collaborating with different universities. Then this will be plugged into your car, and then this gets the data in the Bluetooth, and you can collect how many times you have put a brake with a few kilometers range, and the different statistics on that based upon the driving style, how we need to drive, how you drive the car really. So whether it impacts the engine performance, everything is calculated. Based upon that, the premium is changed. So that's the kind of technology is already there. It's not pervasive, it is not like spread everywhere, but it will spread everywhere soon. So that is what the market. So a lot of things are happening in the market, and we are getting engaged in this kind of innovation with different clients. So that is where we use, we call it as Uber delivery methods, where we participate with more of the ecosystem, different people's strength, because we don't do any hardware, but we engage with different eco players, and then also we engage with universities with this research, and then we do that for the client. So that's what is going on in the market.
Great. Yeah.
I'm wondering about what will happen to the consumers now. We are talking about a whole lot of technology here, and Paki also brought in about what are we saying the effect on the consumer actually, the ultimate consumer? What do you think?
See, I think someone alluded to this, right? Pay for use, I think, is coming distinctly as a new way of thinking. And HBO has done it very well, for example, right? You pay only for what you see. So customers are paying for use, and customers will also pay more for abuse. That's the way I see it. And why would you, as a customer who's doing well, want to be penalized because the industry is working on an industry average of this is how customers behave and set premiums? So in the short term, customers will generally win, right? In the long term, no one knows.
I'm really wondering on the other part. I can understand the payment part of it. But do I want every single machine to come back and tell me what I should do tomorrow? Like he was talking about tomorrow morning, somebody comes in and say, hey, you are heart attack in 45 minutes. Do I want to know that?
If you really look at, there has to be I think I would say the answer right now may not be yes or no. I actually don't know the answer, but fundamentally I think people are interested to know some analytics to them. So simple things like you do a make my trip and they will not leave you, or a Uber will never leave you without you putting a star to it. Is it 4 or 5? Otherwise you cannot book the next car. For example, you may like it. So people are at least taking the data. Now, if you look at how extreme they are already gone into it, or let's say the insurance practice, I think if I were to join these two dots, you may have new business models, and thereby the consumer behavior demands that kind of models, for example. I mean, if I have to really relate to what my colleague was saying, if I'm a good driver, I should be paying less insurance. I mean, as simple as that, that's my demand. I don't have that option today because these two dots have really been talking to. Now regulator may say, no, what happens to LIC? That's a different discussion. I mean, or a different other company. But reality is these are new emerging data which throw to new opportunities and thereby new behavior, or vice versa. New behaviors may demand new analytics and thereby you get into it. I think, so thereby there is no yes and no. But certainly if you look at the millennium crowd that is sitting here, they are loving it, because what we see in the system is, I mean, the other day I was saying that what an HDFC bank website number of hits present to us is sometimes less than Flipkart. So you have to really understand at what play, who is wanting what kind of data and what is he doing about it. So it's also affecting a lot of people like us saying that, okay, what did you design for, by the way? So that's also a lot of learning there. So it's not about just consumer. I'm saying people who are OEMs, people who are suppliers, people who are distributors, people who are customers, all are getting into a very dynamic model. So thereby I would say the answer is known on that day about the event and what's happening with them. And that's where I would.
So I got some comments on your question of where does consumer lie in all this. So I feel the consumer is the king, right? If you look at the classic businesses, they try to bring technologies to those people who are ready to pay. right? So even if you look in India, now the spending power has really increased, right? So customers have become demanding now. So they are going and demanding all those stuff. Like I saw a recent video of Watson, and then it gives those data to the person, through that Fitbit. And okay, today you have eaten up so much, you have exercised for so many minutes and all that, and then basis that they have suggested how you should do, right? If that person wants that, then why not, right? That is the case.
Right,
So we had one more example of him saying that like a differentiated services. So if you go to a insurance company, so it's like, okay, how many years old car, what is the depreciation value, and is the cost, and is the discount, and you take it. And then it's like a transaction. But then if he's able to differentiate, okay, I drive very nicely, so I'll give maybe 5% more, I get 5% more discount, then obviously people would like it, right? And that's where the technology will play a role in that.
And the customer has a big role too, right? I just want to tie two things that Prasad said. One is this whole star rating model. It's amazing. Somewhere the customer's starting to say, I trust this provider versus I don't trust this provider, right? So the example again that he gave earlier today about a doctor showing up. The question is, what are you going to do? Are you going to say no? Yes? Do you really know that you're going to have a heart attack? Right? So, but you've subscribed to the service, and you've subscribed to it because there are probably 10,000 people who've given 5-star ratings to the service. Now the question is, how many of those 10,000 are actually people versus bots? That I leave it as food for thought. But there is going to be a parallel system of trust and subscription. It's going to be customer demand.
So just another thought, like if you look at commodities, so commodities are under stress. So all industries who are depending on commodities, they will do less spending, right? If you look at banking in India, it is highly regulated, right? So the differentiation of banking services is very minuscule, right? Who will spend? Then the customer. So you talk about entertainment, you talk about gaming, right? All these technologies are what is being demanded by customer as an individual. So the B2C, the business models will become very big. So in the course of the tea break, a lot of people came and asked, like, what do I do? Whether I should join an IT company and all. Of course, it's a very difficult question to answer. But if there is a B2C and all the young crowd, I'm sure you like entertainment and gaming. And if you really like those, you can actually combine those two and play a part out there.
Milind, since you have the mic, how do you help provide innovative services to companies to deliver IT as a service solutions?
So if you say everything is becoming on demand, right? So the concept of buying the equipments and putting it together and then making it work is something which is eating up a lot of time, and then the businesses don't like it. So obviously there is a trend of getting on demand, and the people who provide these are the cloud companies, cloud providers, right? So and they have really matured now. In the past 4 to 5 years, they have really matured. And when I talk to the cloud companies, I don't think why any organization should buy equipment or applications for their own use. Only in those special applications like analytics, maybe like they may still want to go ahead and own it in their premises and control it. But all the day-to-day functions, whether it is email, web, or even the business applications, they can very well run on the cloud. And then there is a lot of flexibility. For example, now like we are talking of insurance, right? So one of the largest insurance organizations, they have a data center in a cloud and a DR on another cloud. They may not go ahead and getting the managed services. They may have done the co-location, so they may be owning the equipment there. It may be on the capex, but then the flexibility is immense. Tomorrow, part of that application they can put it into a cloud environment, which is a shared environment with other customers, right? So many of these organizations, they have not set up the data centers in their own premises. They have gone ahead and use the facility which is there with the cloud providers. So what we do in this case is that this is a disruption to the IT hardware industry, and there is a pressure on organizations like NetApp and similar other organizations like NetApp, right? And so we have taken a step that we will make the process of going to the cloud much faster. So we wouldn't want to stop it. We would say we want to make it more faster, right? On the other hand, we wouldn't go ahead and set up our own cloud setups. So we would go ahead and collaborate with the cloud providers and give them technologies which would help them to offer customers to migrate to cloud as quickly as possible and embrace the cloud.
Why are people still afraid about data security, data privacy to go to the cloud?
So I'll give an
Are
example.
those fears warranted?
Yeah. So of course those fears are not warranted because my job depends on selling cloud, right? Okay. But I'll give you some, if you take our security, right? So you may be thinking of security from somebody accessing my data, some third person. I'll take a security in a different way. So data security, data is very precious. So the organizations who have lost data, 93% of those organizations have shut the shop. That's the study. Right? They have signed up for bankruptcy. So if any organization puts his infrastructure on the cloud and generates the data there, the cloud provider can help make copies of this data in different data centers. So if the data center is in Mumbai, he would make a copy in Bangalore. If it is a global organization, he would make a copy in New York. Right? Practically, on an on-prem model, this is not possible. So if you have a bank which is gone ahead and set up a application and some kind of associated infra and data in Mumbai, and then he has copied it into New York and Bangalore, the same organization can't set up the infrastructure in his premises and do all these things. He may spend money, but it will not be practically possible. So data protection is nothing but security. So we're having multiple copies of data, right? Now we talk about the classic the classic way of thinking, like security, like somebody trying to access, it's lying in somebody else's premises and all that. So there are different levels of services that the cloud service providers can provide. So it starts right from physical security, putting into a cage. Then it starts from putting physical, equipment away from the other equipments. So that is another way of doing it. Then there would be a shared infrastructure, but then there would be a multi-tenancy. And then those can be very well demonstrated. Those can be very well demonstrated how the multi-tenancy works. And finally, the application itself. So there can be multiple instances of application, and one instance is being used by this organization. So whatever the appetite of that organization has in terms of his comfort towards addressing those security issues, those are able to get solved. And obviously, it's a general human tendency, like you test something, you get comfort, and then you go 2 steps further.
Okay, this is a quick question to all of you. There's the Singapore-based bank very recently, in fact 2 days ago, they came out and they're talking of disrupting banking in India by offering online account opening and 7% interest on savings bank accounts. And they're planning on having something like 50,000 crores in the next 10 years. What's your take on that? How will it impact the rest of the banks in India? And this is all online, and it's a foreign bank, Singapore-based.
See, we've seen it, right? And I know a couple of my friends who've signed up for the service. What it does is it's paving the way for everyone else to follow. What are they doing? They're looking at Aadhaar-based verification. They have simplified the whole KYC process. They're giving you a card that you can use immediately, and it's a virtual card, right? Do you really need a physical card anymore? Maybe, maybe not, but mostly no, right? If you're shopping on e-commerce sites, there are people who built a business model around creating a secure dummy card that you can shop on, and suddenly here you have this card that you can, probably be just a 10,000 rupee credit card that you can use to shop online. The whole concept of physical cards, physical maintenance, it costs 150 rupees to print a card. Who's paying for all of that? And if I can start removing those costs, and I think as someone alluded to earlier, right, if you can get your service faster, cheaper and better, it's going to cause that paradigm shift. So I think it's a good thing. It's a great thing for the industry. And in my conversation with banks, a lot of people were thinking about it, were doing it in parts. But this is the first time that we have a foreign bank coming in and saying, okay, we're going to do this. And you can be pretty sure that, in 3 months, everyone is doing the same thing.
I think they're talking of biometric identification and cafe, coffee day outlets.
That's right.
I mean, this is something which is really...
No, but that's not what they've done, right? That's the whole Aadhaar infrastructure that has been created.
That of course,
right. So they're just riding on that. And a whole lot depends on there's a lot available. There's central KYC, there is Aadhaar-based verification. These technologies, thankfully, and we've leapfrogged the West when it comes to it. So it's about how you want to put it to use.
And again, so just talking about what Sridhar is saying, this is what the vision, I think I read an article from RBI governor. He was thinking that in next few years, people will not go to bank. They will do banking, everything on the mobile. I think this is one good example in that kind of vision. People will not go to bank at all, do all the transactions over the mobile or whatever device they want. I think it's paving way for others to do.
Does the bank have banking license in India?
Yeah.
It's not 251 rupees mobile.
No. Look. See, what's happening is they're challenging the very concept of a license.
Yeah.
Traditionally, RBI says you get so many branches.
Yes.
Right? And because it's a foreign bank, there's a bit of reciprocity involved on how they allow Indian banks, etc. But to keep it aside, it says number of branches. And suddenly, where are branches? There are no branches. You don't need a branch, right, to do this service. So that's how you kind of leapfrog that.
This is the Uber of banking. So all of a sudden you find that.
So it's, I think globally there's so much of this is happening. So we are a good replicators here. So we're replicating it well. So there's a company in Europe who does pure insurance business only on Facebook. So these kind of things are happening, and one of you guys should do something like that in India.
Okay, we are actually kind of running out of time. I've been getting all kinds of messages, visual and verbal. So one last question to each of you. If you were the Prime Minister and if you were supposed to come out with the Digital India vision, what were the top 3 things that you would do to change India? You can start. Anyone can start.
So I would divide our country, naming it as in one part would be, let's say, Hindustan, then Bharat, then India. And I think whatever our Prime Minister is saying, or let's say if I get that opportunity, I think it starts with Bharat. And I don't think we have a solid story on Bharat still. We are talking a lot. For example, this bank that we took an example is an India story. It's not a Bharat story. I would lift my hand for Bandhan Bank more than this bank. I mean, after all, at the end of the day, it's my country. I have to deliver something, give back to the society. I think if I have to look at it, digital should start with Bharat, and let's see how many people put the money on that. Otherwise, lot of people and companies and CXOs have heard saying that, well, yeah, digital, great. Now you can change a city called Bombay, but just Latur, you just can't do anything. So to my mind, if I was to, I would say, if you want to go digital, the license should clearly say you will start minimum with Bharat. Of 30% of whatever you want to do digital, you will do there. If at all, that's the digital agenda. The second thing I would say that we must use technology to really ramp up this country in terms of, for example, basic education. There is no way you can create teachers. I mean, the way we are exploding in population and the way we want the talent, you will have to fearlessly use technology. Be it agriculture, be it, let's say education, very fundamentals to our life, And that if it can be digitally done in a very, very strong manner, and then throw back information so that I know back there 500 kilometers down the line, here is one bright student because of this analytics that I have. I want to pick him up and actually put him into my company. I think that is the difference that I will create. Today I believe that we are a distant away in that, and we are racing against time. We are really racing against time. So be it manufacturing hubs coming or not, I wish we actually do the last 500 villages first, and then see how many people then take. So your compliment should be, you'll get a Bombay City digital if you get me 300 towns like Latur. I mean, that's what I would say as a combination of it. I think there's unlimited money around it. There's unlimited ideas, like most of you have ideas. There's nothing stopping this. The only intent issue is where I see, where people say, let me make money out of India versus contributing Bharat, making it to India. So that's what I would say as the area.
So, I mean, good points made by Prasad. See, I would say that 3 things, since you asked about 3 things. One is, so there are a lot of things. So first is definitely teach digital. I mean, we are talking about, like exactly what is said is, we are talking about the cities and things where a percentage of population, very minuscule, talking about this digital. So how really entire country, 1.3 billion kind of people get the digital knowledge. So really need to teach digital, how to really have the digital technologies invasive into those people, how they learn. So that is number one. So number two is live on digital. That means whatever you talk, I mean, a lot of digital India, everything talk is going on, but how much really gets implemented? How much really follow through is happening, right? So we need to really live on digital. If you really have a plan, really need to have an entire country, not in certain places. That's number two. Then three, the experience digital automatically will come, like what he talked about, the kind of data what we need. So for example, let me give you this, we talked about how the transactions happen through the banking, how the corruption will really go off in the banking transactions. Example is Chennai flood. I talked to you about the Chennai flood, I was there during that time. So Chennai flood, what happened is, when Chennai flood happened, a lot of areas in the Chennai, said this affected Chennai flood area. Then after that, they said, okay, whatever the amount, forget about the amount, they said 5,000 rupees will be given for the people who will get affected. But what they did, all the transactions they did through the bank. In earlier part of our country, right, it would have gone through cash, and cash would have gone through somewhere. So this went to each and everybody's account. This is the real power of digital. So real transaction of bank, how it happened. So that kind of experience I need to have. Then I feel that, okay, the corruptions are reducing, corruptions will not be there. So that's what I would say. More of teach digital, then leave digital and experience digital.
I slightly differ from Prasad in his views, right? Of course, yes, it has to be the last mile. It has to be the Bandhan Bank, and Bandhan's doing a lot of stuff as well. So you talk to Mr. Ghosh, he's driven a lot of these digital initiatives, right? Does it imply setting up a bank account and giving everything digital? Maybe the set of population he's targeting does not need that, right? But a lot is being done, and the reason sometimes I was in a football camp with my kids this morning. At the end of it, the coach said he got us all into the camp and he made us do the stuff, and he said, do you have any feedback? And there was no negative feedback till it started coming, and the kind of feedback that came, you know, you guys as coaches, when you play, the way you communicate with each other, my kids are not doing that. And these are 8-year-old kids. What expectations do you have? Right? That's not going to happen. It's going to take some time, right? So if you go, there's a lot of initiatives that are already happening. Digital payments, digital health, education, but you've got to give it time and you've got to be part of that process. And you've got to really let it run its course, right? So I was sitting with the Chief Minister of a state and we were talking about what we can do with the geo kind of connectivity, and we've got this product on digital health, and which allows you to do, which allows nurses or volunteers to go out and get data. And in the background, you start figuring out what are the disease patterns and if there's malaria or if there's something else and so on. And the CM says, that's great. I mean, you guys are building this information highway. I like it. But let me share with you something. He just pulled his computer. He says, in this taluk, in this district, in this village, there were 30 cases of malaria. In this, there was so much. And he had data at his fingertips, right? Now, somewhere the government is doing its bit, right? Without this whole Bharat engagement would not have happened. Of course, we facilitate it, but what I'm saying essentially is the needs are different. So we shouldn't say, hey, the urban customer is being serviced with this. We shouldn't superimpose it on the rural customer and say it doesn't apply. Of course it doesn't apply, but there is this whole different set of things that apply, right? And there's a lot of work happening on that front.
Sure.
So you asked for three things to be done. I started thinking when others were speaking, and I realized there are more than 30 probably. So I left that idea.
Top 3.
Yeah. So it's very difficult to prioritize. So all conflicting priorities, right? But there are some thoughts out here, right? And one is that India is considered to be as a poor country, which I disagree. Like there is a lot of money in India. I think the problem is only execution, right? So we have excellent, policies that have come up recently from the new government, and the execution is a problem. Somewhere it has got stuck up, and it comes down. Whatever comes down comes in trickle. So that is a great experience I had. I had gone to a property, I had gone to a registration office for a registration of a property. And generally, if anyone of you had done, then you would know that you had to go there and then wait for 2 hours, and then there are a lot of people there, and there's a small room, and then a lot of people jostling around. So here was a totally different experience. So I didn't go to a registration office, so I went and sat in front of a person who was having a PC. So I was there, and there was another party and then 2 witnesses. So we sat across. He took a photograph. He took the the biometric print, and he actually compared it with Aadhaar. So we have an application which is running in a corporation under the purview of corporation. It was talking to another application which was a purview of central government. Okay? And then the matching was done. So it was identified that the individuals are correct. They are the guys. Now all those things which were supposed to be typed up as a part of the agreement, they were already typed by the person one day before. Right? So and then he just asked us to glance through it, and we said we are okay with that. And then he said, okay, I want to pay the stamp duty. So you were aware about the stamp paper. So there is an online stamp paying facility. So he connected to to that particular application, which is a state government application, and not a corporation application. And he paid the stamp duty by internet banking. So he had an account. He used that bank account, and then he paid that stamp duty. And then, you can go. Next day, he sent across the soft copy of, the agreement and all that. It was transformative for me, right? I couldn't believe that this is possible, right? And this is all happening today, actually. So no one would believe it. So I would have done, a couple of such transactions in the past, and those were totally different from what we have. I'll take another example of smart cities, right? Now we're talking about smart cities. There are 100 smart cities. 100 cities are going to come up. The way how they are going to get developed is obviously they're talking of video surveillance, parking facility, and a lot of other stuff, citizen, helping. But they're creating a SPV, a special purpose vehicle. So there is a private party to it, and there's a government agency which can be somebody like MMRDA, or it can be a corporation, and they are going to run that SPV. And the job of that SPV is to monetize that service. So there is a money that has been put in by the SPV partner, and unless he monetizes, he will not be profitable. So you would see, I expect that same transformation will happen to the cities as well. Right?
From my side, fantastic views. And so I think the government is really data driven. You would have seen the Power Ministry's portal, gov.gov.in, so where they've taken up on a mission mode the electrification of 17,000 villages. So you get a near real-time dashboard, a GIS dashboard is there, and all of you can look at it right now also. You get a real-time update on which village is getting electrified, which was visited today, where the grid is. So I think if each union minister kind of owns this kind of KPI and provides a real-time update, I think that it would be a very highly efficient government. And just on a personal view and on a lighter note, government recently released data on income tax, and I was really shocked to hear that only 40,000 people are there in India who pays between 25 lakhs and 1 crore. If I just go to South Bombay, I can get those many people, right? So if we just multiply by 10, the Indian economy tax collection would jump 10 times. And it's a simple correlation data analytics between the people who pay tax, people who buy cars, and people who buy homes. So there is no big deal. And if income tax also can come out with this real-time dashboard, I'm sure the Indian economy also will really jump tenfold.
You need a big dashboard for that.
Yeah.
So any quick questions from the audience? I know, sorry, we've stretched this a bit, but any quick questions from you? This is your last chance. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I am a student here, PGPM student here. So as more and more businesses move towards technology, they use technology to reinvent themselves. Do you also see a threat of misguided or unplanned digitization? And if that is a threat, then what is the best way to mitigate it?
Yeah, in a lighter note, I think in some places in India today, there are more smartphones than water. And that's a fact.
Yeah, it should
They have smartphones, but they don't have water. And I think that's the flip side of, that.
But you can bring these two together, right?
Yeah.
So I know as Reliance Foundation, there's a lot of work we are doing to, and the government's also doing a lot of work. If today you go to villages, people call WhatsApp free SMS. That's how they know WhatsApp, right? If certain, if you can centralize, soil analysis, weather, etc., and tell people what to plant, what are the crops they should go with, etc. If you can make that kind of a communication based on inputs that you're receiving from various people, I think we would have done a huge thing on the digital revolution for.
So both should go hand in hand.
Yeah. So to your question about can it be misused or
misused or unplanned. Either it was not planned where it did more harm to you than it.
can you give us an example?
The reality is in life, most of digital happens by accident rather than thought. So if you look at Twitter, you look at Facebook, all of them were in
like we
parts
have
accidents.
cloud, for example. So there are some companies that will go, oh, cloud is the latest thing, so let me implement that. But actually it is not going to drive any value for you at that stage probably, maybe in future when your business grows more. But then it sort of turns out to be the investment sort of does not add so much value to your business. So it should be either find the best fit for your, the best solution, best technology solution for your problem, or misuse. Either ways.
So I think the very purpose they said that it's a latest thing and that's why it's deployed, bound to fail. So there was no purpose behind why you are deploying the cloud. So those kind of intents will lead to failures. If they had a very specific purpose of innovation or cost reduction or agility on the business model, with those kind of purpose if they go, then those technologies are easy to deploy and realize the benefits out of it. So sometimes the purpose or the intent is wrong, that because it is the latest fad, I'll implement it. It is not going to give much results.
So is that a trend that more businesses are doing?
Yeah. One key thing is establishing the ROI on digital. That's very important, and that can be done and it must be done. You just don't make investments and expect something to happen.
So in fact, first of all, do a business case, right? I think you would have done all this thing. So first is the business case, whether it really, and then get the stakeholders to on board before even going into the program. I don't think in companies we have appetite to really just jump into the program and observe something. We need to get so many approvals and agreement with different people, so that you need to have a point of view and why it's benefit. So to his point, I think if a lot of people don't know why we are really investing in this digital technology, that's a different question. But usually there are a lot of scrutiny goes around this in a large organization or a small organization.
I think sometimes you just can't escape it, right? You have to do it, right or wrong. So if you look at large companies, their Twitter accounts, social media, they want to open it up to people, and you can bet they're going to get bad reactions. You can bet. You can bet that the guy who signed up for it said, oh my God, this is quite a nightmare, right? There are people writing directly to my CEO for something, the car stalls, and the guy writes, boom, boom, at Anand Mahindra. Yeah. Is this how you make your cars? Right? Are you ready for that? But then look at it, what's the alternative? Right? Either which way it's going to be there on social media, so you've got to go with it. Might not necessarily work in your favor all the time, but you've got to ride that way.
Thank you. Those were some very interesting questions from our audience. Thank you for your participation. We extend our heartfelt thanks to all the eminent speakers, Professor Oscar D'Souza and Dr. Anil Vaidya, for taking us through the exciting topic of reimagining businesses the information technology way. On behalf of SPJIMR family, we request you all to accept a small token of our appreciation. I would like to request Sakshi and Abhishek to present the mementos to the guest, Mr. D.K. Venkatesh. Mr. K. Sridhar. Mr. Milind Tasgaonkar. Mr. Prasad Rautre. Mr. Satyen Jadeja. Professor Oscar D'Souza. And Dr. Anil Vaidya. So please join us on stage. As part of Samavesh 2016, we had a tweet-a-thon where we saw tremendous response from students and others who were having thoughts on Twitter and promoting the event. I now request Dr. Suresh Lalwani to please come on dais to award the winners.
Second place for most creative tweet goes to Lavkush Shah. First place, good first place.
Lavkush will tell.
Lavkush will tell.
Win.
Yeah.
So it was a tweet about there's a photo tweet and there were 3 cups about the Samavesh. So I joined all the 3 cups and made a Samavesh of all the 3 cups. So it was a bit creative.
Thanks, Kush. The winner for the most creative tweet was Abhishek Chaudhary. Abhishek.
My tweet was Samavesh is an assimilation of the best of industry and academia, where they share, debate, and discuss the incurring problems in the industry. All this compiled in 140 characters.
Second place for maximum number of tweets, Hardik Mirani.
Countless. Winner of maximum number of tweets, Mudit Gupta.
First or second?
First is Mudit and second is Costa.
Facebook photo booth contest.
And the winner for Facebook photo booth contest are Kaustav Roy and Mudit Gupta again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Before we end the conclave, we would like to extend a vote of thanks to Dr. Suresh Lalwani, Dr. Anjali Malik, and Dr. Jayasudha Bande, without whose support this conclave would not have been possible. A very, very special thanks to Ms. Jyoti Iyengar, whose energy has kept us motivated and throughout the planning and execution of this conclave. We would also like to thank the PGPM staff and the SPJMR administration for their extended support.
We thank our online food partner Zomato, our alum partner Four Fountain Spa, and our reward partner Gift XOXO. And last but not the least, we would like to thank the participants for making this event a grand success. With this, we conclude the Information Management Conclave. Thank you and have a very good evening.